All right, welcome everybody. I think we're doing episode 27 today. Is that right? Can I get positive nod? Yep, positive nods from everybody on the crew. 27. I can't believe it's already been 27. We'd probably be in the 40s if I wouldn't have, gotten lazy and taken a couple weeks off and stuff. But whatever. Episode 27 of the Daily BLP is coming right at you right now. We've got a good, fun show in store for you. We're going to talk a little bit about yesterday. Had some good business activity here at Panacea Smart Solutions, and there's a couple headlines that happened as of yesterday/today in regards to this month and some things going on. We're going to talk playoff sports a little bit and wrap it up with how to stay accountable this month in May. So let's get going. Let's welcome in the crew today. Who do we have today? Manoj is with us, of course, controlling things with a Atari joystick from India. Hey Manoj, how you doing this morning?
Hello, Brian. Good. I'm good.
Good to see you. Good to see you. I love that light blue shirt. It looks good on you, man. Looks good. Manish, are you alive? I know you're there. I just haven't heard anything from you yet this morning. How you doing, man?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing good.
Good. Your shirt is blending into your background. That's okay. You just slightly look like a floating head, but that's okay. It's a good-looking floating head. Don't worry about it. You look good, man. Really, really good to hear your voice this morning. Hey, and coming in from Colorado, we got Matt Dugan from Pivot Studios. How's it going, Matt?
Going good, Brian. Glad to be here as usual.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's our resident podcast guru. And marketing guru as well. Okay, last but not least, my man in the chair wearing his AC/DC pajamas, Declan Collins. How you doing, bud? Awesome. Declan really came around and helped me out this morning getting some more things ready. So he's kind of still in his training phase for kind of pre-show production stuff, but he's getting there. And he's coming along really good. So anyway, let's get right into the show, guys. You guys ready? Hearing the excitement from everybody, let's roll. Okay.
Roll.
All right. So day yesterday over here at Panacea Smart Solutions, though there wasn't a whole lot on the books, we had some good movement happening. And sometimes that's a good thing about having an open day. It makes you sit down and think about, all right, what do I got to get after? It actually leaves room for the incoming traffic that we've kind of worked out with our relationships and our marketing and communications and stuff. It leaves an opening for that stuff to come in and me and our team to be able to do things about it right away. Because sometimes on a day when I'm booked, traveling, meeting with people, doing discoveries, doing assessments, closing deals, that kind of stuff, I've got no time to dedicate to things that come in live, right? So we had a couple things come in yesterday that I was really able to kind of jump into and work on. So one of those things being watching communication between our office manager and my assistant Jamie, talking with the main contact at this business down in the Milwaukee area that we met with for the second time last week when we did their network assessment. We had a soft schedule for next week, Thursday, to do our presentation on our services to them. We locked that in. And we confirmed that there's going to be some more players at the table from that company, some of their ownership, which is a huge deal during the presentation. The person we've been working with, like I said before, he's awesome. He's super smart. He's on top of everything that's going there technology-wise, but he's still just a kind of a major influencer. He's not ultimately the person that signs the checks. And if you only have kind of the influencer or a champion on your side at that table at the presentation, then you can guarantee there's no way to get anywhere near to closing a deal. You can get them excited, you can get them on your side, but they still got to go back and have a meeting without you, with the people who actually pull the purse strings. So in this case, I think we're going to have at least one person, maybe a couple other people in that presentation that this person reports to, which is good because they're going to have questions. They're going to have more business-related concerns about the deal, and I'm going to be able to address those objections, overcome them, and, close the deal. So that's the objective, and we'll see how it goes. So next week, Thursday, we're going to be taking the show on the road, not this show, but our business show on the road down to them and presenting. So I can't wait to have an update the day after that. So hopefully Friday, I'll have some good news for you. Other big thing that happened with us yesterday is we have this relationship with this organization this year that we started that books us big discovery meetings with huge potential clients. So one of our goals, this year is to move towards locking in a couple deals a year that are really big, that really stretch us as a company, that require us to buckle down, get better, lock things in, and provide our services, whether that be IT, whether that be revenue cycle management, whether that be digital marketing, whether that be VA services, any of the things we do, scribe services, at a large scale. Because for the most part, I mean, we've got some big clients, but nothing in the kind of that requires, us to grow our company by 20, 40, 50, 100 people. And these are the types of deals that we're looking for. And that's why we created this relationship with this partner. And maybe someday I'll have their VP of sales on the show to kind of interview them and about their companies, because we've had a couple good meetings so far. These are tougher though, because you'll get mid-level to lower C-suite level people, and they're still not the people that, these are organizations with thousands of employees. So they have a lot of bureaucracy built into their decision-making process. So even if you meet with a person, have a really good conversation, it's very high level and very much at the idea phase. Here's kind of what we're looking for. Can you do that, or can you make that happen? Yeah, I think so. What's next steps? Well, I've got to bring this to a committee, and then they've got to bring it to another committee. So let's agree to talk again in 90 days. These are kind of the deal. These are, for the most part, the kind of deals that could take 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 months to close. And we don't have a whole lot of experience closing those type of long-term deals. I'm much more of a 3-week max sales cycle kind of experience, but so it's a little bit of a learning process for me. But that being said, I'm excited to do it. This deal that I learned about yesterday, we get these dossiers from this company. It's like, here's who you're going to be meeting with. Here's what they're looking for. Here's what this person is like. Here's what's important to them. Here's their business background, because the people that they set us up to meet with, them and their companies are members of their organizations. We're partners of that organization. Those guys are members. So got this meeting coming up on Monday with a really, in our case, a big a dermatology group with about 300 plus doctors and providers. So they're doing, clinical dermatology, and they're doing surgeries and all that kind of stuff, keeping people's skin healthy, and 300 plus providers. And we're going to be meeting with their director or VP of revenue cycle management, but we're not meeting with them about revenue cycle. We're meeting with them about scribe services, because one of their biggest pain point right now is their providers are taking too much time on clinical documentation. So it's limiting their revenue potential with those providers, because they can only see so many people per day if they're spending 1, 2, 3, 4 plus hours a day with the documentation that's a result of seeing the people, right? So our scribe program is built to take away that burden in a very quality, highly accurate way. So they're looking to improve documentation so that they can bill out better and get better results and reimbursements. And they're looking to save their doctors time so they can see more patients too. So having a really strong, competent scribe service like ours can, we're talking 20 to 30% more patients per day can be seen. And if you take the patients you're already seeing, add, say, 30% more, and then improve the quality of those notes by, let's say, 10 to 20%, your revenue can jump significantly if you do it at scale with 300 providers, right? So I'm really excited to have that conversation. I think it's right up our alley. I think, some of the meetings we've had with some big possibilities from this organization before have been very conceptual. It's like, hey, we think we're looking for this, but we don't know. Are you guys a fit? And so the conversation, though it's been good, it's really kind of stale. I have a feeling this one's not going to be stale. So I'm super excited about that. What do you guys think?
Nice. I think that's great. I just had an interesting recent interaction with a prospect where it was actually our champion was the owner of the company.
Nice.
And then he went to his team and he was like, hey, we'll have to kind of wait on this, talk to the team, not the time, right timing, yada, yada. So I just thought that was interesting. It was a smaller company, not, probably 10 to 20 employees. But I just thought that was interesting how, and honestly kind of respected it, honestly, how the owner of a company, respects his team's opinion. I honestly respected it. I wasn't against it. I was like, hey, completely get it. But I had not really seen that before where my champion was the owner of the company. I had some good messages with him. He really liked, what we had. And he was like, hey, I'm going to bring this to our team on Friday. And then, looped up, he was like, hey, timing's not right. So I was just curious if you've kind of seen something like that with your champion being like the owner and then maybe the team is the ones that were like, hey, maybe now's not the time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So you found yourself in the reverse objection when it comes to decision making, right? You had the
Yep.
DM, but they were like, and here's what I can guarantee. They had the ability to make that decision. If they saw you as the tool that could enhance their team, he's going to go to their team. He's going to sell you like crazy. They're going to get excited and can't wait to meet you. But you're right. So the question is, how do you pre-plan for that objection?
Right.
And so I learned this years ago in our when I was learning this IT sales process that I use now, and I apply it to everything. I apply it to the process and all of the things we serve. And it's really the question-based selling method, but it's okay, leading up to it, you have an initial meeting, you have a discovery meeting, right? Sometimes you're with the owner of the company. Sometimes you're with like a middle person that they've tasked with finding you, right? And it's very hard to get to the owner. In this case, you got the owner. You had a discovery process. You made to the point where, in this case, were you actually presenting your deal? Were you like, here's what we got for you?
Not really. It was more so sent over some different options of the work we do and then kind of gave him some ranges of pricing. But it didn't really get to the point of proposal or anything. No, nothing really down on paper.
But you got some pricing in his hands, right? So
100%.
sometimes you have to move. You have to be willing to move up and down, inside out your static process, and you know where you want them to be, right? You want to kind of sometimes hold on to that until you know you've got everything accounted for. In this case, when you have that conversation, you're not quite ready to close, neither is he. So here's kind of where we might be. The trick is, since you weren't in that presenting situation, he's not going to buy anyway, right? He's not going to, oh, this looks perfect, let's go. It's going to be more like, in that conversation, because that question from a prospect will come out a lot of the times in my first meeting in the discovery, right? Because whether they're kicking tires or they're serious, the main reason they want to talk to you or they're willing to talk to you is they want to know, what's this thing going to cost?
Yep.
Right. So I'll spend that first discovery meeting. My objective is to just ask questions and almost say nothing about my company. My best discovery meetings are the ones where I get to the end of an hour conversation and I haven't said anything about my company, and they're not even asking about my company, because based on the questions I've been asking and the responses they've been giving and me digging deeper into those responses, subconsciously in their mind, they're already thinking, these guys know what they're doing. He wouldn't be asking me these questions if they didn't have experience, if they weren't good, all the questions that, people usually ask you about your company. So typically on that front, they're like, tell me about your company, Brian. Oh, I'd love to do that. Can I ask you a couple questions first? And now you're on your agenda. They're going to be like, oh yeah, sure. Boom, 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 boom. These are all qualifying questions. For digital marketing, what you would be asking to find out if you can do what you need to do for them. And then you get to the end, and one of I learned it's calling, pointing out the elephant in the room, which is at the end of the meeting, I'll generally say, hey, based on everything we talked about, Matt, this seems like it's going to be a fit. I mean, I'm not seeing anything here that is outside of the bounds of what we can do. Now, you might be wondering, what's the thing going to cost? And they're like, yep. So I'll say, I can't give you a hard number that is a quote that you can hold me to. But what I can say is, based on everything you've told me, you're probably going to be in the range from here to here. Now, how does that sound to you? And I shut up. And if they say, that is way beyond what I'm looking for, there is no way, then I will say, then it's probably, you don't want to, I know you don't want me wasting your time, and my time's valuable too. It might be the best situation is to just, put some thought into this, and we'll follow up down the road, or you can follow up with us, because honestly, if you drive hard to do your next step and then your final step, you're going to get to that table and they're just going to have wasted your time. You're going to probably have spent $1,000 or more of your time getting ready, presenting to them. And they, from day one, have just been stringing you along, right?
Yep.
And I don't do that in every discovery meeting. I generally do that in discovery meeting if the answers to the questions I've been asking have been telling me they haven't been spending any money. You know, because, IT being a good example, there's a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses that have been getting along with doing bare minimum to nothing. And they're one small little tick catastrophe away from the wheels falling off, and they don't realize it. But in their mind, they're like, hey, I've had this business for 10 years. I bought my computers used, 5 years old used, and I'm still using them 10 years down the road. I don't think I need to spend money on IT. But they don't realize if their 15-year-old server died tomorrow, their business would be dead in the water and they'd be losing money every minute that they can't operate. So depending on how that initial meeting goes, if I'm talking with somebody that is obviously not used to having to spend money in the realm of IT, then I'm going to give them that soft range to figure out if it makes sense to move forward.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm going to get to the table a couple weeks later in the presentation, tell them this thing's going to be $3,000 a month, and they're going to walk out of the room being almost offended. Like, what do you mean $3,000 a month? I've never spent $25 a month, right?
Right.
So in this case, it's that you kind of did it. You did that soft range, but so if that soft range, you got to be willing to ask them the question: Is that a deal breaker for you? If they say,
right,
yeah, there's no way, and say, okay, hey man, I really appreciate your time. This is where it would be for you to get what I think you're going to need to take you to the next level. Then maybe that, you guys got to decide whether it makes sense to have the next step. If they say, yeah, man, that's about what I thought it was going to be. That seems fair. Okay, then, well, the next step is we got to have a meeting where we delve into what you're doing now. So do you have a team of people that are doing some of this stuff? Yeah, I've got about 5 people. I got about 3 people. I got about 2 people. They're all kind of involved. None of them are marketers, but my front desk secretary, she's doing our social posts. And my office manager, she's sending out emails once a month. And right, that's the team, right? For most of the time when you come into a company that doesn't have what you're doing already, right? So, okay, awesome, dude. That I want to have a meeting with you next week. But I've got a couple more questions for you. Can I get 10 minutes with you? Can I get 10 minutes with this person, one-on-one? We don't have to be all in one big Zoom meeting, because then you're going to have to sit through an hour-long meeting when I only need you for 10 minutes. And they're going to have to do the same. So if I can get 10 minutes of your time, and then you'll have specific questions for those people based on their interaction and their hopes, dreams, and vision for marketing for the company. And then you make a friend. In 10 minutes, you can make a friend with them. They can get to know you. You're going to ask them questions, make them feel like their vision and their stuff matters, and you're going to solve their problems too. Now you've collectively got everybody at the table on that assessment. Come presenting your deal, right? You're going to come back to them and you're going to say, let's say his name's Joe. Joe, thanks for so much. Maybe you have Joe's conversation last after you talk to everybody. This has been great. Thank you so much. Before we get off the call, I want to book next week. When are you available next week for me to present our solution for you? Wednesday works great. Wednesday at 2. Okay, I'd like Jane, Mike, Dan, and Frank. I'd like all those guys in that meeting too. I'm only going to need about 45 minutes or whatever, how much time you need to present, but I want them to be there too, because I want them to hear that I've taken, our talk into account in presenting this proposal. Now you've got everybody at the table that's a part of the discussion. You've got his team, you've got him, and there's no using that hey, we need to think about it deal. That can come up too, but you can be ready for that too. You can be like, when you present, hey, we need to talk about this and think about this. Okay, fantastic. Have some ways to overcome that, right? Like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to step away for about 15 minutes. You guys can mute your audio, and I'll come back and we'll see what you guys think. How's that? Well, okay. So have something in place, like you've got a specific, if they decide to work with you, letter of intent, something like that today, you're going to waive the onboarding fee. Or, like, let's say you have an onboarding fee that's equal to 75% of 1 month of your agreement with them. because you're going to be doing all this work on the front end, right? But really, you want a 3-year deal at $2,000 a month to do their digital marketing, right? So that's the big goal. The onboarding is nice, but you might have to use that as leverage. Say, okay, hey, if you guys decide today, that let me back up. Here's how I typically would teach to do that. When that objection comes up, hey, we need to think about it. Can we get back to you tomorrow? Or can we get back to you next week? Absolutely. You kind of, if I'm in person, I'm going to pull up my phone. I'm going to start, hey, before we pull out calendars, would it make sense to say, hey, if you guys can make this decision today, I'll waive that $5,000 onboarding fee. So I'll give you guys 10, 15 minutes now. I'll step out of the room. You guys talk about it, and then I'll come back in and see what we do. How's that sound? Okay, that's fine. If you've got them all there, they can do that. If you don't, they can't do that. And then you come back in, and what do you guys think? They can give you the decision. Maybe they want to push and pull a little bit more. That's usually the last objection you get because you're trying to close a deal at that point. So that's what I would say with that reverse thing. Build in your process that you involve the team. Have that be one of your questions, because I do that on my discovery. Talk to me about the different types of people who use the computer. Oh, our receptionist uses a computer. What about the people on the manufacturing floor? No, they don't really do anything with computers. They're just pulling levers and stuff. Okay, cool. So you've got your office manager. How about an accountant? Yeah, okay. You find out the people that are using computers. And then when you have your assessment for your service, you ask to involve them. You want to talk to them about what it's like, doing digital marketing type things on a monthly basis. Then if you involve them, you can get them to the table at the presentation, and then there's no reverse permission asking objection.
Nice. That was really, really helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, it was just interesting because I've dealt with a lot of objections and all that things, but usually it comes from the owner or executive. It was just interesting where I was in front of the owner and so that's really good. I really loved getting in front of the team members and things like that, because when you make friends with the team members and they know you, they're more likely to be like, hey, let's go with this guy.
Oh yeah, they're pulling for you.
Yeah,
right. So you can get those. I would say what I just explained is you always want to plan for that, but it's still more rare than the hey, I need to go back and talk with my boss thing. Yeah. So the way you overcome that the same way. Early on the process, you got to identify who those bosses are. And so it's usually, I would say 7 times out of 10, the first person I'm meeting with is maybe, let's say, like a controller or an operations person, or maybe an office manager, right? And then they're obviously not the top of the food chain. Sometimes they are if it's the office manager and the owner is kind of just like, I just do my thing and you run the show, then they're the decision maker. It's okay. They can generally say things like, hey, the owner does what I tell him to do anyway. Okay. But most of the time it's like, you got to identify who these other people are. Who's your director of sales? Who's the director of marketing? Who's the director of operations? Who's the owner? And what's everybody doing? Because you definitely want to short interview those guys, but you definitely want to short interview frontline people too. Receptionists. They've got the ear. They know what's going on in the organization more so than the CEO a lot of the times, right? So because your frontline people, if you close a deal, can be your biggest grumblers. Because if the service you're getting doesn't make sense to them, they'll whine, complain about it until it makes its way up to the owner. And the owner's like, why am I paying these guys to do this if my people aren't even happy about it? So
makes sense.
Anyway, I kind of got a little long-winded on that, but I'm really glad you asked that question because, I got to teach a little bit about how I've learned to do that.
Yeah, no, cool. I love it, and I really appreciate it, so good stuff.
Yeah, you bet. All right, any time. Cool, Manish. I know Matt and I were kind of just owning the floor there. You got any comments or thoughts on some of these new opportunities that we're getting? Oh, I do have an update for you, Manish. Sorry to interrupt before you even start talking, but the one of the web forms that came in that I followed up on yesterday morning got back to me in the afternoon. We had a nice discovery meeting, and she emailed me back yesterday evening that she wants to move forward to get a scribe. So that's a win for you guys on the web form. Yeah. Nice job, bud.
I think we have received a couple of web form yesterday after.
I saw one this morning came in.
This morning came in, yeah.
Yep.
So moving forward on your question, I have comment like, it's a good opportunity when we are moving for the 300 providers company to just talking to them and the discovery meeting to present our services. That's a big opportunity for us to grow as a company, because most of the time we are seeing like we are working hard with the clients, and they are sometimes satisfied with our work, sometimes they are disappointed, like things are not going in their way. But I have noticed that one thing, this usually happens with, small businesses, wherein you are dating with the bigger businesses. They don't care about the small things. They only focuses on the bigger results.
The big results, yeah.
Yeah, bigism. So I think that's a great opportunity. And yeah, the way you explain how we tackle the things on the math question, that is really awesome stuff. I learned a lot today.
Oh,
Thanks for sharing.
Appreciate it. So yeah, none of the Scribe team leaders or anything know anything about this opportunity yet. You can tease it to them if you talk to those guys at all, Manoj and Manish, but don't tell them everything about it. Say, I can't tell you everything. If you want to know more, you got to watch the show. Because I'll say this: one of the things I want our team there to do. We've got so many people on our team in the office there. I want them to watch the show because I don't just blab about what's going on in the company to let the world know. I want to let our team know that we're doing exciting things. And we win some, we lose some, but we're doing a lot of stuff. And you guys are a big part of that. But I want them to watch the show so that, they feel informed too. Make sense? Cool.
Yeah.
All righty then. But yes, Manoj, Manish, good job on make sure the rest of the marketing team knows that what they're doing is starting to work. I mean, it's like I always preach about this flywheel. It takes a lot of work and effort to get the wheel moving, and it feels like nothing's happening, and pressure's coming from all around. Are you doing your job good? Do you know what you're doing? But then you get trickles. So what's getting us the trickles, let's double down and do more of that work so the trickle turns into a waterfall.
So, Brian, this is how marketing and sales works. So it's been like I spent almost a decade in marketing field, and I started my career with a very small position as a digital marketing executive, where I used to write the copies for social media posts. And I started learning more things. When I started working as a leadership, I have seen this kind of situation many times. When pressure comes, things are not coming in our, way. We are struggling to get the leads, but it takes time. When we are building anything new, it takes time. But once you are getting your website is ranking on the Google, your email campaigns are doing well, you will start getting the form submission leads easily. That's not a big deal. So this happens. This is a phase of business. It happens. Yep.
But it's exciting. So very cool. Well, that was fun to talk about. Thanks, guys. All right, so let's move on to what's happening outside of the walls of our company, and let's talk about some headlines that are happening here at the beginning of the month. So on my little outline here, it talks about some May Day. There's some protests happening yesterday around immigration and labor rights activism. Deck, did you find something online for that? Can you share it to where I can see on the screen? Can you do that? Is that possible? Can you move it over? Awesome. Thanks, bro. Nice. Okay, May Day protest will rally nation. Wow, this is from NPR. NPR is, I'll just say, technically biased to a certain degree. So let's see what's up with that. Will rally nationwide against the war on working people. Interesting. Scroll down. Let's see what they're talking about here. I'm sure it's awesome. Tens of thousands of protesters are expected to take to the streets nationwide on Thursday in May Day rallies opposing the Trump administration. Of course, yeah. Tens of thousands, I'm sure. I'm sure this is very organic, and there's going to be nobody in these crowds of tens of thousands of people that are paid to be there, and that are given special signs to wave because there's an agenda to push. I'm sure that's not going to happen at all. Anti-Trump protesters has expressed rage of concerns regarding the administration's recent actions. Oh, I got to get closer. My eyes are old. Including the elimination of thousands of federal jobs, immigration raids, and billionaire Elon Musk's involvement in downside the user. Oh, I don't have to go. That's enough. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. So you can pull that away so I can see the team again. So before I go on my rant, I'd like to hear a little bit about what your guys' thoughts are. Let's start with you, Manish and Manoj, if you've got any angle on this. Everybody's opinion is valuable, whether I agree with it or not. So obviously with this new administration, our president was elected overwhelmingly, almost like never before, to do certain things that he ran on. One of the things was to clean up immigration, hold to the laws of the country. When we allow people to immigrate into the country, we want people, but we want it to be legal. And then, what's obviously things that are going on, and I don't even know if it mentioned tariffs, but it talked about elimination of government jobs and things like that. So those are these two big things. I'd like to get your opinions before I present mine. Manish, you got anything? I know you're on the other side of the world and you kind of hear about this from a distance, but what are your thoughts? I know that similar things happen in India, right?
Oh yes, so Brian, actually, I don't have so much information about that, and I don't know how is it good for the country or not. But yeah, sometimes some decisions are good for the country. In India, these days, India is taking a very strong decision as a country, because we are fighting against the terror, and that is the global news in India. So um, some decision looks very harsh and high, but that is against the terrorism. So that should be taken. So as a nation, we should take a strong decision to make a strong nation, what I believe. And that completely depends on our diplomats and the bureaucrats. They are sitting on the top position. They have a good control. So, yep, I don't know a lot about the Mayday, but
That's okay.
in my opinion, yep, if something is coming in favor of your nation, that is always good thing.
I appreciate that. Manoj, did you have anything? If you do, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Don't feel obligated. I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts.
I also don't know about that much.
That's okay. That's okay. You got your head to the grindstone. You're doing all kinds of stuff. That's okay. That's probably a good thing. I will say life is generally a lot more happy if you keep your head out of all this mess. But it's really hard to, as a dad and as a business owner and stuff. Matt, give me a couple thoughts before we move on. We won't spend too much time because we're going to be running short on time here.
Yeah, just a few thoughts, not too much really on it, and I'm not super informed on this, but one thing I will say, I'm all for, labor rights, making sure people are protected as far as workers go, but more so on the immigration and things of that nature. I'm a very America first kind of guy. So when I think of that, I think of, veterans that are on the streets. There are plenty of drug addicts, the homelessness that we're dealing with. My thought is before we start taking care of other people, taking on their problems, taking on other countries' problems, I'm a very big advocate of let's take care of our people first. So that's what I'd kind of say is my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. And some people will say, well, what makes us more important than somebody else? And that's not the point. The point
Right,
is
exactly.
whether I'm a father, whether I'm a manager in a job, whether I'm a volunteer helping people, if I can't display the characteristics and the behavior and the discipline to keep myself together, and then what gives me the right to think that I know what's best for somebody else that's struggling? Yep. Right? It's the whole on an airplane. Why do they tell you to put your mask on first? Because if you die, if you can't function without air, you can't help somebody else.
Exactly.
Right? So that's a big part of the why I think I agree with you here too. But
yep.
Other, and I don't think this is too tinfoil hatty, but my opinion on this is that, okay, if we're going to talk about the major two things that they talked about there, cracking down on immigration, cracking down on government waste and spending, and eliminating organizations and jobs that aren't necessary. Okay, I have empathy for the people who lose their jobs and income. But I also have respect for the process of understanding that agencies, jobs can't exist if they aren't necessary. Yes, if you are a person who has a life and a family that's dependent upon your $60,000, $70,000 government income, but it's shown that you add no value to the country you're working for and you're receiving that income, then you have to something has to change, right? And I'm pretty sure those jobs were cut, but they were given severances. They were given the opportunity to accept a portion of their income for the next amount of time to float them until they can find something else, right? So that's aside. I have empathy, I care, but caring doesn't justify paying someone to do nothing, right? As far as the organizations go, no organizations are getting cut that are needed or that have a true value. The ones that are getting cut are the ones that have ballooned, bloated, or been basically a fraudulent affront to have some other agenda passed or get something else done in another country. Added to that, I am convinced that the biggest reason there is such an uproar, the caring about people thing is only presented on the front end because it's the emotional hook to get people to react a certain way. People, and this is why it's good to be into sales. You learn this most of the time the hard way. People make decisions emotionally and they back them up logically. It's not a good way to go through life. Eventually, you got to understand not to react to emotions constantly. But any person who understands how to get someone to buy something understands that people make stupid decisions based on emotional reactions. So what the media and the press is trying to do with articles like this to get their agenda to be held on to, they appeal to emotions. They're not using any logic. They say things and they do things to get people fired up and excited and angry so that they'll protest, so that they'll do things, right? But I'm convinced that with both of these situations, both all the government waste on these agencies and all these jobs, as well as the immigration thing, the only reason that there's so much uproar is there's a huge economic marketplace behind it of activity that the people being affected by that activity are upset about. Same thing with the tariffs. If you sat down 1,000 people, random sample from this country, and asked them about the tariffs, I guarantee 99% of them, if they're well informed, will say it's great because now jobs are coming back here. We can start making things. My income can come up, blah, blah, blah. It's the 1% of people that are invested in the market that's hurting because of the tariffs that care the most, because their 401ks, the money that they've put into the market based on the way the market was set up is now getting hurt. That ship will right itself. Eventually, it's like a bubble popping. The bubble was that, hey, tariffs have been, free trade has been negative to us for 40 years. Now it's going to be even. There's going to be a shakeup in the market. It's got to right itself. Eventually, the people that care the most, they don't want to lose those dividends short term in order for it to right itself and then regain the dividends long term. But it's no different than any other bubble that pops. Income, greater, bigger, bigger. The bubble bursts, it goes down, and then it goes again. That's just what happens. But I'm convinced that there's a lot of people making a lot of money off the way things were, whether it be immigration, cheap labor, under the table labor, all those kind of things, more votes for a specific party, all those kind of things, that if we do things the right way, the way the majority of Americans want them done, those things are affecting their lives. So they're going to dump as much money as they can into whatever media outlets they can buy off to present the things in a way that make it seem like there's a lot of anger and turmoil and everybody's mad. But just like a couple of years ago, even during COVID and stuff, I was still traveling, driving a lot of places, trying to close deals and stuff. I go into towns across America and people are nice. People aren't like jerks. People don't sit around tables talking about racism all day and talking about immigration all day and talking about, man, they live their lives, they work hard, they come home, they raise their families, and it's the world's not, in general, when I talk to people, they're not as bad as like the media makes them out to be. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And it really is interesting because one of our former clients actually was one of those companies, and so there are companies that you hire to influence. There goes the camera.
That's okay, brother. We can still hear you.
Yeah, but no, that there are companies out there that collect data, and pretty much their whole thing was, we know how to influence opinion, and so there are whole companies where their job is to influence an opinion, influence the emotions, because that's what it is. That's no matter there are people out there, no matter what they believe, if you strike a chord with a certain emotion, you could flip their vote like that. So really
throw everything out the door. Yep.
Yep.
You 100% dead on. So that's my thought on it. I'm sticking to it for now. I think anytime there's change that can positively affect an outcome down the road, it's always painful. It's like you rip off a Band-Aid and like, oh, there's that ugly wound. What am I going to do about it? But eventually it heals. Often there's a little bit of a scar, but you're better off for having gone through the pain and fixed the problem that would have possibly, instead of hurting a little bit now, gets infected and kills you, or makes you cut off that limb later. Does that make sense? Kind of a grotesque analogy, but it's truthful. So anyway, moving on. I'm going to skip sports for today because I think we've had two really good conversations, and I'm running short of time, and I got to get my wife to therapy. And my daughter to a concert she's got to sing in. So, skip sports, but I did want to hit on what we can say is the Lakers got ousted. So the Lakers are gone. So bye LeBron. Skilled dude, but yeah, Ant took him out. Okay, moving on to one of the things I wanted to make sure to talk about today was adding a little value. I didn't realize we were gonna have such a good sales conversation, but I appreciate you guys leading the way with some of those questions. I wanted to hit on, since we're at the beginning of the month, what are some things that we can do starting now, first week of the month, to stay accountable to what we're trying to get done individually and professionally and on our teams this month. So I got a couple things I just wanted to cover real quick, if you guys don't mind. Number 1, set SMART goals for the month. What's a SMART goal? If you don't know, it's SMART is an acronym for things to do to set a goal, a certain type of goal: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So make sure you're very specific with your goal. Don't be general. Make sure it's something that can be measured, because if you can't measure it, how do you know if you're ever going to get there? Don't make it so crazy out there that you can't get there and attain the goal. Relevant, make sure it's relevant towards other things that you're trying to accomplish. Don't just make it a goal because it's nice, fuzzy, shiny, when you're really trying to get big picture over here. And then time-based, put an end to it. If you get it, great. If you don't, reassess, come up with a new plan, put a new timetable out. So SMART goal. Next one, share goals with peer or mentors for accountability. That's the biggest one I struggle with, is I'll share my goals with people, but I won't ask them to hold me accountable. It's weird for me. So, but I gotta be able to do that in my personal life, in my professional life. I have friends that I trust enough to hold me accountable. Hey dude, you said you were going to close 3 deals worth $15,000 a month this month. Where are you at? Did you get it? No. Well, what are you doing? Let's go. Right. I need someone in my life that can do that. I learned very young that when I was in sports and stuff, the more a coach held me accountable, the better I got, no matter how much I pressed up against it or argued or threw a fit. Eventually I caved in and did what that coach was expecting me to do, and I was better for it. All right, next one, do weekly check-ins and measure your progress. So don't just put the goal out and do all those smart things and never check in along the way, because you'll get there and you'll never have been able to adjust on the path there. And block calendar time for what matters most, not what is the most urgent. So block the time on the calendar to get the things done that affect your goal the most. Last thing I'll say is most people overestimate. How does it go? Let me think about this real quick. most people overestimate what they can get done in a year and underestimate what they can get done in 5 years. In the same way, most people, when they're making their goals, and this is why they quit, overestimate what they can get done in a month and underestimate what they can get done in the full year. So when you're making your goals, think about that. Choose the goal that stretches you in the month, but is a stepping stone towards what you ultimately want to accomplish down the road. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, Matt, Manish, Manoj, Declan, for your hard work with the show today. Thanks for all your comments and thoughts, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.